Hi, good morning, afternoon, and evening to wherever you are. Welcome to Opening Assessment in Problem-Based Courses, a WeBWorK pilot case study. My name is Anita Walz, and I'm Associate Professor and Assistant Director of Open Education and the Scholarly Communication Librarian from the University Libraries at Virginia Tech.
And I'm Heath Hart, and I'm an instructor in mathematics at Virginia Tech. I teach courses in linear algebra and discrete math.
In this short 40-minute presentation, our roadmap covers why homework software matters. We'll frame the conversation with a description of the purpose and common uses of homework software within a post-secondary and higher education context. We'll describe some of the benefits and issues with mainstream commercial and commercially available homework software, list some open source and low-cost options, and briefly discuss a homework software pilot several homework software pilot projects from a system, provincial, and state level. These are from BC campus, and then the ones at our institution, which is in Virginia. We'll reflect on some of the benefits and challenges of our project, and we're going to leave we'll have an interview with Heath and also have him do a short demo. We hope to leave about 10 minutes for questions at the end. So we are monitoring chat. If you have questions or clarifications of things that you would like to send to us, we encourage you to put this in the chat as we proceed. So at all levels of education, learning assessments, both formative and summative, are helpful for sparking student learning, identifying learning gaps and teaching gaps, and assessing student mastery of course content. Assessments come in a lot of different forms, from class interactions to the more formal types of assessments, multiple choice questions, solved equations, writing mathematical proofs, fill in the blank, short answer, essay, various types of projects. But increasingly used in a higher education institution as a replacement for paper homework and Scantron exams are homework software assessment systems. These are especially true when a discipline or a type of assessment does not fit within something like the the campus learning management system, auto grading features, or when features such as personalized learning, a progressively auto leveling of the difficulty of questions to match perceived student needs, or other needs such as graph creation or plotting are useful from a faculty perspective. This can also include things like integration with video libraries, textbooks, and other kinds of learning resources. These systems have been shown to benefit students, at least initially, showing the relative learning gains on first exams in comparison to students who don't use them, but their benefits often drop off after the first exam. Homework software systems offer a single place for students to do their homework, to take exams, and they offer very significant time-saving efficiencies for instructor grading. Instructors or their departments are generally the decision makers regarding whether homework software is adopted in a course. For large enrollment courses, especially without teaching assistants, some type of auto grading is nearly essential. However, they are expensive. They're expensive for students. They can range $50 to $150 per student per semester per course. Students can't submit homework in courses without paying for a homework software access code, and this has disproportionate negative impacts on historically underrepresented students, lower income, first generation students. It's also a source, as you can imagine, of student frustration. On nearly every survey that I've run, student perception survey, students have expressed frustration. Why do I have to pay to submit my homework? The frustration is real. As a note, the author of this paper on the cost of doing homework is speaking at this conference, I think tomorrow or Thursday. And I would encourage you to go see Virginia Clinton Weisel's session. She'll be talking about this paper, which is a really, really great setting of context. So some faculty are as annoyed with students and take issue to the cost versus the value received. Others express a desire to adopt better fitting, less expensive materials. Some indicate I can't transition to an open educational resource because I'm using homework software. What can I do? So with the goal of enabling faculty who wish to improve student learning experiences, reduce costs for students, switch to open text, or do something else, something different. The Open Education Initiative at Virginia Tech has run a number of pilot projects. And our main goals have been to give faculty choice and control over what they use in their classroom. They're the best judge of what students need. Our secondary goal, of course, is to reduce costs for students, and we're trying to create opportunities for faculty to work together, and creation, review, and sharing really develop a community of faculty who are learning together and supporting each other. These efforts, we have done a number of different projects. One which we're talking about is WeBWorK. There are a few other areas where we've been experimenting. One is Pressbooks results, which we call open text results. Test bank development. These are test banks that can be pushed into a learning management system. And then we're piloting an engineering assessment environment that is allows parameterization and a lot of other kinds of features. So at Virginia Tech, the efforts have resulted in 10 or so unique problem sets, either completed or in process. And these are in business, engineering, math, statistics, and chemistry. They're all licensed for no cost adaptation. Two of these display problems and solutions and are distributed in PDF through our institutional repository or through something like Canvas Commons. Another two are available in various formats for LMS import, Canvas, IMS QTI, XML QTI, Blackboard, Excel, or in a template that allows those to be translated into a format that a learning management system can ingest. Let's see, there's one other note, and those two are available only to verified faculty. One set is H5P. Two are in development. One is a part of the interactive engineering homework, and a final one that is an update of the existing fundamentals of business textbook. The 4 or 5, I guess, that are under development are being used in the WeBWorK environment. And so one question is, does this also work in D2L? The fundamentals of business and strategic management, I think do work in D2L. The others are not something that are LMS integrated. Really great question. So as a quick overview and part of our inspiration, BC Campus in 2019 to 2022 ran a pilot program in which they aim to replace high-use, high-cost commercial systems in the BC post-secondary system with open source alternatives. They were a secondary goal. They were trying to develop disciplinary champions and communities who could steward these once their pilot ends. And then they were also trying to inform the British Columbian post-secondary institutions about the financial costs and implications to students learning due to homework system cost. So BC Campus had lots of funding. I think when I tallied up their work, they spent over $300,000 Canadian. So yes, they had funding. We do not have that much money, but we have some money through a grant with through library funds. We also have some funding through the Office of Student Academic or Undergraduate Student Academic Office. But we know that there's a lot of variety. Well, why is there so much variety in system and in type of problem that people are developing? So LMS grading has some limitations. It's not always the most useful, and a lot of instructors go beyond the LMS, some to full price commercial options, other toward resources that are lower cost to students, but these have hosting or institutional subscription costs that the institution funds. Some of these you will recognize, and I'm not an expert in these, but I know that some of these are worth looking into to see are these options for your students, pros and cons, and no endorsement here, but there are some other options. And something that might be interesting to know is that there are various funding streams that are going toward homework software systems and development. Ohio State University, the Big Ten, and Unison had content camps for multi-institutional collaborative test bank development. Viva has a new IMLS grant for development of an open source LMS integrated test bank system. And I'd love to see in the chat if you know of others, because there probably are more that I don't know about. So as you might have guessed from the introduction, and Heath being a mathematician, that we're interested in homework software that supports math and math intensive disciplines and has greater stability than our university LMS, which is currently Canvas. Our work was not done on a provincial or state level. We, as per your question, we had far less money, and our challenges were more on the institutional level related to hosting. We have spent 6 years trying to get hosting and IT security and the student protections for student data known in the US as FERPA. All of those things settled and resolved at our institution. We tried, I think, 3 different approaches, one being hosting internally, which no one wanted to do, of external hosting in 2 different places, both of which had IT security issues. We had to have both the software code approved as well as the hosting environment. We ended up using Reclaim Hosting. They host it for us. We don't run it on their server. They run it for us, and we pay them, which is not really what we wanted to do because it's expensive, but we found in our environment that was really the only way we could go. So we are reporting on our progress each semester. We started the pilot in summer 2023, and data for fall 24 is not final because we have not gone past the point at which students can drop courses. But we do know that our numbers of students, our number of sections, and our number of faculty are progressively increasing each semester. We have really excellent faculty adoption and intent to reuse, to use this again, if it's something that's available for the course a faculty member teaches. We have good student feedback. If Heath can talk about this, there's some feedback that we saw recently, anecdotally on Reddit, that students were excited. A lot of courses are moving to WeBWorK. That was really fun to see. We have some saved students, at least $74,000 US, and potentially over 110,000. And then we have some evidence of reduced drop, fail, and withdrawal rates, which are really important in our context. So in this fall, we've added 4 more courses, including our first course in chemistry. And we're really excited to try to get more people on board. My role in this is to manage the overall project, to deal with approvals and budgets and payments, and making sure that people have the support they need. Heath can talk about his role, which is a lot more technical, but also involves a lot of training and support for for faculty who are considering or are using this system. So I'm going to give you the link for our, oh, yeah, okay, so people would like to see WeBWorK used again. I'm going to give you this link. You can log in and see questions yourself, but I would like to turn it over to Heath, who will use his voice. Heath usually sounds great and is feeling a little under the weather today. But Heath is going to give us a brief demo of the system, and then I have a bunch of questions that I'm going to put in the chat and have you up and down vote them to see which topics are most interesting to you in the chat. So I will turn it over to Heath for a demo, and I will be busy in the chat adding some additional information.
Hi, sorry, I'm unmuted now. Thank you for bearing with me. My name is Heath. Anita, if you'll answer some of the questions that are in the chat already, I can answer the question from, I can find it now. Joan asked about using some of these resources in D2L. I'm about to demonstrate some stuff that happens in WeBWorK, and WeBWorK does interface with D2L. It does work with their gradebook, and so students can complete work in WeBWorK and then have their scores reported into D2L. Anyway, this is a test course that we've created for you. If you click on the guest login, it says because I'm in a bad place here. There we go. All right, now I'm logged in. Just want to show you some of the things that how WeBWorK looks from the student's point of view. So I created an artificial assignment with 4 questions. The first question comes from our differential equations course, from the actual first week of the course. It just wants to know what the order of a differential equation is. Couple of features that we can build into a question. We can ask students can ask for a hint. The hint can be either text or it can be a link to a video, depending on how you want to give the hint. You can also link to other types of resources, like link to a page in an online textbook. You can, if the answer is wrong, it will let you know. You can find out by checking answers that the answer is wrong. And if you are really stuck on a problem, you can ask for a new version of the problem, and then it changes the question for you. And maybe something about this problem will click, and you might be able to get it right this time. Check the answers now, and you'll see that one's correct. You can set in WeBWorK a limit on the number of times students can ask for a new version of the problem. You can also set a limit on the number of times that students can check their answers before it grades their problem and cuts them out. So that you can make the assignments more high stakes or more low stakes, depending on what you want. Let me move on to the next question. This is a similar question from our calculus course. Questions can have multiple parts. You can get partial credit if you get some of the parts correct. One of the things that we're are trying very hard to do is promote to the university the idea that WeBWorK is not just for mathematics. It's for all kinds of STEM disciplines that require doing computational work. And so this semester we are piloting in a chemistry class when we have questions on, um, balancing equations and stoichiometry and, um, molar calculations and that sort of thing. So this is an example of that. We have a link to a periodic table so somebody can look up the atomic weights for these atomic masses for these chemicals. There's a hint if they need one. This is a problem from a microeconomics class. We're not currently using WeBWorK in our economics class, but we are looking into the prospect of being able to expand into that for 2005. There's a randomly generated graph that you can enlarge by clicking on it, um, if you need to do that. And that based on the um, price and the demand of a product, we want to find out what kind of shortage would remain if there were a price cap on the gallon, that sort of thing. So there's a variety of disciplines that we can use with WeBWorK. There is a um, variety of types of problems that we can ask, and it's not super difficult to write questions in WeBWorK. So what I'm going to do now is log out as a student, log back in as myself, and go into this last question here from the economics class. And I want to show you just briefly what it looks like behind the scenes. Um, there's some macros that we load to use certain kinds of math objects, and TIX is a graphing language. We randomize. There's some very pretty straightforward code for doing the calculations, and then this is the complicated part of the code is the code for generating the graph. But we want to draw a grid. We want to draw some axes. This is the x-axis and the y-axis is on the graph. And then the red line on the curve and the blue line on the curve. And then finally the text of the problem. And that's where we're ending because there's no hint with this particular problem. Anyway, I'm going to pass this back to Anita. And
Yeah, that's fine. So,
and answer questions as you have any. So thank
okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Heath. That's really helpful. So lots of questions in the chat, a few that have been upvoted. So I'm just looking at those that people um have talked about. There's a lot of question about accessibility. Is the platform accessible and how? And we have gone because of the number of students that are using this, we passed the accessibility threshold for our institution. We should go through this anyway, but we've been required to go through an accessibility audit. We did have to make a few changes to how we were hosting it, how the links worked um, in the site that we're using to connect to this. Heath, do you want to add anything else about accessibility?
So, so I did the changes that were necessary to make the site pass our university's WCAG AA level accessibility. A lot of those had to do with um, font size and color contrast. We had to make some changes to the style sheets. There were very few other types of changes that we had to make. Um, the core of the software is very accessible. Um, I will go back and share my screen just one more time to show one more thing. Um, as a specific example of an accessibility feature, um, we can provide hard copies for any of the on-screen stuff for students who cannot use the hard copy or cannot use the screen. We can provide that directly as a PDF, or if we need to make adjustments to the font size, for example, we can make it a text source, and then we can edit the text source to enlarge the font. But we can generate hard copies for the sets that we need to work with. As well, users can create um, changes in how the equations are rendered as well. The equations by default are rendered in MathJax, and MathJax has a number of accessibility features as well that I'm not prepared to talk about right now, but if anybody wants some information, I'll be glad to look some information up for it.
Thank you. So we have a couple people asking, so what does it take? What kind of effort does it take for a faculty adopter who's not leading the technical side of the project like you are? In other words, what should potential adopters know about this system? And one related specific question is, how long does it take you to develop a lesson? And I did mention in the chat that the open problem library is an option to take verbatim from the open problem library, to take questions from there, or to take and customize them to better fit a particular use. So what would you say is the learning curve for a potential adopter in your experience, Heath?
So the time it takes to generate like a homework set is proportional to how complex the content is in the set. I can crank out at this point calculus one problems in a matter of minutes because I've been doing that for a very long time. When we put the differential equations class online, which is a much more crunchy subject and takes a little bit more time to think through good problems, I found that it took me about 2 days, like 2 6-hour days, to get a complete set together working. And so we had a total of 12 sets. And so that took me about a month during the summer to build that course. It was not, something that I can knock out in a matter of minutes, but given a summer of lead time, I was certainly able to get that ready for that.
Yeah, I should mention that we've negotiated because of our concern about sustainability and just knowing that um, we want this to continue beyond for a long time. The work that Heath does is not free, and so part of our grant was to pay Heath a summer stipend. Find and sort of understudy who would get half of a summer stipend that can back Heath up and can be the person who hopefully will carry this forward. We do offer some stipends to the faculty who are creating new questions. It's never free to create this, to create new materials. And so we really want to make sure that people who are contributing to this, who are using these kinds of things, both or have some kind of financial compensation, and then have an agreement that they will make their problems available to be submitted back to the open problem library, so that other people can use those as well. So yeah. There was a really nice question about integrations for molecules, Lewis dot structures, and things that are important in some types of chemistry projects, chemistry problems. So the person who is writing the chemistry questions has been working only since the summer. And I'm not sure. Do you know, Heath, if those questions have those molecules, Lewis dot structures, other kinds of structural drawings have come up in your work with the professor in chemistry, or maybe not yet?
I was actually just working on an answer to that right now.
Okay.
So starting with version 2.17 of WeBWorK, which was released in 2022. WeBWorK
Okay.
now supports a graphing language called TIX, which is a general graphing language. It's not specific to chemistry,
Mhm.
but it's versatile enough to be able to do diagrams of all sorts. And So what has to happen now is, now that we have support for TIX, somebody has to come through and um, basically document how to use that general language to do
Mhm.
things that are in specific disciplines. It was a huge improvement, and in my opinion, to WeBWorK, and it's only been within the past couple of years. Amy, if you um, want to talk about this further, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Um, because I do have some documentation on ticks. It's not specific to chemistry. This is a ticks workshop that I led last year within our department, but this would be a starting point for being able to build diagrams of other types. And I'd
Mhm.
be glad to share that material with you.
Yeah. Let's see, other questions in the chat. How has this been for you as an administrator? So you're the system administrator for this. What have you had to do, and then what kind of support has been helpful for you in taking on that kind of work? And related to this, your department obviously is aware of this. What is their response to this effort so far? And you don't have to say anything that's politically sensitive. So you can ignore that question if you would rather.
Um, I will go ahead and say something that's politically sensitive. Our previous, um, we recently had a change in department head, and with the change in the department head came a change in the attitude towards open resources as well. Our previous department head had the mindset that if you had to give it away, it couldn't be worth anything. Um, and so he was very reluctant to use um, free resources as like the main resource for a course. He let people use it as a supplemental thing. He wasn't adamantly against using it, but he was not. It's not going to be supportive. That once we got past that, I'm not going to mention his name, um, but we have um, a new department head doesn't share that um, who doesn't share that experience. So um, it's made it much easier for us to get the department on board with working with WeBWorK during this pilot, and we've had a lot of success now that sort of, barrier has been lifted.
Thanks for sharing that. So we just have 5 minutes left, and there's a question about accounting. Why do none of these platforms include accounting? It's a subject that's required for every business student. In your exploration of the Open Problem Library, have you seen accounting problems there?
There are a few.
So that's interesting. So maybe the answer is they haven't been written yet. And so I think, I don't know if there's interest from our accounting department, but if there's a group of people who perhaps have interest to talk together about writing, scoping out some accounting content and writing that, I think that would be a lovely way for people from different institutions to work together. You can email me, and I'm happy to pull together all the people who say, yes, I'm interested. My email is in the chat. And I will also put both of our emails on the screen so that you can see those. So yeah, lots of other mentions in the chat of other kinds of systems that people are using for annotation, for things that are specific to chemistry. I think the list that I had on one of the slides shows all of those, but yeah, we're really grateful for your interest in this. We think this is worth doing, and we know that students uniformly are pretty frustrated with having to pay to do their homework when there's not a sufficient value add, and that this is a really difficult area to kind of crack, because software and hosted solutions are not something that you can just use somebody else's and run them. You have to either host them, or you have to somehow sustain them. And so there's a different cost structure that pops up that's different than downloading something that you could use in a class that doesn't require the interaction and the hosting and the updates and that sort of thing. So, okay, let me put the slides up again. And right, I think I'm sorry, I'm having trouble doing this. Okay, so I'll just spell out our email addresses. It's A as in Anita, R as in Ruth, WALZ at VT, stands for virginiatech.edu. And Heath's email address is Heath, HEATHDAV at VT.edu. And you're welcome to reach out to both of us. So thanks for your time. We look forward to hearing from you, and appreciate your participation in the session. Thanks, Heath. If folks want to stay afterwards, where the recording will be stopped in 1 minute. And if folks want to stay and chat a little bit more, you're welcome to join us.
Is Lori still here? She said that they're working on a grant for econ accounting faculty.
I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So is there any way, because sometimes it's hard to find after you guys do something, find it. Is there any way to get in touch with you if you do create something that
Okay, I'm
we can
putting
get-
my email in the chat. I'm the OER